It's just a theory. And but there is this big theory about this interdimensional thing, including UFOs, Bigfoot, and the afterlife. Yeah. There is. I mean, it's out there. I know about it, but it's kind of hard to, it's just like we can't prove the existence of ghosts. We just can't, because nobody can actually get one to come in and sit down in the lab to study. So
I keep trying to get them on the air, man. It's just not happening. But you know what? We are at the top of the hour, Bobby. We're going to have to pick this up. I can't believe it. Wow. But this is going to be a little top of the hour news break. This is the time to go and fill that coffee mug or wine glass, or just do a few cartwheels. Do some for me too, because I would love to. And we will be back in 5. Here's hoping that maybe there's a little good news out here today.
This message comes from NPR sponsor American Express. See a big deal as no big deal with worry-free protection. See business differently with American Express. Don't do business without it. Learn more at americanexpress.com/seebusinessdifferently.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. The Northern California area, ravaged by the most destructive blaze in state history, is seeing its first significant rainfall in months. The Camp Fire has destroyed more than 13,000 homes and killed at least 81 people. As Jeremy Siegel of member station KQED reports, officials are preparing now for potential debris flows.
The area burned by the Camp Fire is under a flash flood warning through Friday morning, and CAL FIRE meteorologist Aviva Braun says there's potential for debris flow due to the downpour.
Along the Feather River drainage, that's an area that we're worried about because that area is already prone to rock falls, and so add in the burn severity that we have there and the rain amounts that we're getting, and that becomes a risky place.
Braun says firefighters will be avoiding those dangerous areas during the rain, and most of the burn zone is closed to the public. For NPR News, I'm Jeremy Siegel.
In a rare pushback from a member of the High Court, Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts is commenting on President Trump's description of a judge who ruled against the administration's new migrant asylum policy as, quote, an Obama judge. Roberts saying today as the nation prepares to celebrate Thanksgiving that an independent judiciary is something we should all be thankful for. It's the first time the leader of the federal judiciary has offered even a hint of criticism of Trump, who in the past has blasted judges who ruled against him. Last year, Trump used the term so-called judge after the first federal ruling against his administration's travel ban. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis says some of the nearly 6,000 active-duty troops along the U.S. border will likely come home before Christmas, but it's uncertain how many will stay longer. Here's NPR's Tom Bowman.
Mattis told reporters at the Pentagon that some of the troops, such as engineering units, may no longer be needed, so they could be the first to head home.
Some of those troops certainly will be home. I would anticipate they would be. But some troops may not be, or some new troops may be assigned to new missions.
The deployment of active troops to assist the Department of Homeland Security with a caravan of thousands of migrants heading to the U.S. border is scheduled to end December 15th. Mattis said it's too early to tell whether that deadline will be extended. The deployment has been criticized both by members of Congress and retired military officers as wasteful, pointing out that there are already 2,000 National Guard troops on the border. Tom Bowman, NPR News, Washington.
Sales of existing homes picked up slightly last month, breaking a 6-month slump, though overall sales are down from a year ago. National Association of Realtors, the industry's main trade group, says sales of existing homes rose 1.4% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of $5.22 million last month. However, sales were down more than 5% from the same period a year ago. Stocks after yesterday's broad rout regained some, but far from all their lost ground. The Dow ended the session flat. The Nasdaq closed up 63 points today. You're listening to NPR. Something of a war of words is apparently broken out on Twitter between physicians and the National Rifle Association. A number of doctors are taking to social media to say they're tired of treating gunshot victims. Began in October when the American College of Physicians urged the adoption of tougher gun control measures. The NRA, a group that represents gun owners' rights, responded by telling doctors to, quote, stay in your lane. That set off condemnation for doctors who posted photos of bloody operating rooms to show the toll of gun violence. U.S. Marshals Service has released a report today blasting conditions at Cleveland's jail. The marshals say an inhumane environment in the jail puts staff and detainees at risk. Member station WCPN Idea Stream, Nick Costell reports.
Leaders in Cuyahoga County, which runs the jail, asked the marshals to investigate after a string of deaths this year. The report says food was used as a form of punishment, as inmates in restrictive housing weren't fed sufficiently. It says the jail was so crowded that 2 pregnant inmates were seen sleeping on mattresses on the floor. According to the report, guards called inmates snitches when bringing them to the marshals for interviews. In a statement, Democratic Cuyahoga County Executive Armand Budish pledged a thorough plan to make the jail safer. He says food is no longer being used to punish. For NPR News, I'm Nick Costell in Cleveland.
Yeah, but as mortgage rates have been steadily moving higher from a year ago, a big drop in long-term rates last week. Mortgage buyer Freddie Mac says the average rate on a 30-year mortgage fell by its biggest amount in 4 years to 4.81% from nearly 5% a week ago. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Thank you so much for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. You're listening to Paranormal Experience Radio, and I am your host, Kat Hobson. I am so fortunate tonight. I am joined by Bobby Osterhaudt, who is just full of knowledge, full of experiences, full of research methodologies, and he is currently studying under Lloyd Auerbach at the Rhine Institute. And how fortunate are you, Bobby? That's wonderful.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm very fortunate.
That is just such a great program. And then, all of the instructors there are good.
Yeah.
I think.
I definitely plan on furthering my education in this, parapsychology and the whole operations of psi. Anything included, I'm going to try to do as much as I can. I'm retired now. I can do that.
Right.
I got the time to do it. Yeah, I got the time to do it. So I'm going to, because I enjoy it. It's just so interesting. And it's really deep. I mean, when you get to thinking about some of this stuff. So it's just like I was telling you earlier, when it comes to an investigation, there's so many things you have to consider, and you have to try to work out in your own mind as to what is going on in other people's minds at the same time. So
yes.
It's deep and it's great. It's great. I love it.
Well, sometimes it's a little overwhelming, I have found, when I'm trying to get a good grasp on a concept, especially when you're talking to someone who is as intelligent as the instructors at Rhine, because they know their stuff, they can get it to you, they have taught it, they've lived it, they've researched it for decades, and, I still sometimes get overwhelmed because I feel like, oh my gosh, these people think I'm so much smarter than I am. I am so blown away by this, and I'm not getting it. And it's almost like people sense when you're feeling that way. I guess it's the glazed look in the eyes, and they come back and they go over things. I mean, I have not completed the studies at the Rhine, but I do go into other programs and where I am one-on-one. And, when my eyes cross and I'm just kind of like, oh, this is hopeless, they pick it up and they come back and they say, okay, this is what I'm trying to get across. What are you missing? Mm-hmm. And I think Lloyd and Nancy and all of those people are very good at that.
Oh, yeah. He gets it through to you. And, it's just sometimes, when he's instructing us, he just runs on. I mean, it's like he's a New Yorker, so he talks very fast. And, sometimes I gotta try to figure out what he just said, or,
yes.
I'll listen to, I'll play it back, because one of the benefits of being in a virtual classroom, you can actually download the file and go over it. You can listen to it again. watch it again, go through all the slides again. And, you know, if I have an issue, I'll just go back to that. But yeah, I mean, it's very fluid. It's a very fluid way of teaching. It's just very fluid for him. And, you know, thankfully, you know, although I might have not have been in the right direction as far as the way I conducted paranormal investigations, I did have a good grounding in the psychology behind a lot of this stuff, and the psi behind a lot of this stuff, or all of this stuff. And, you know, through reading his books and others. And so, you know, if he runs through this one part of the course that you know, I might have a little issue of understanding, it tends to come to me like just real quickly thereafter. Oh, that's what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. So it clicks a little bit quicker with me, maybe, you know, because like I said, I did a lot of the reading prior, you know, to this over the years. So like the other night, you know, we're talking about, you know, how an intelligent apparition or a consciousness projects the image they want you to see into your brain. And I asked, you know, well, one of my questions was, could this apparition be able to give each individual in the room a different image of themselves that they want to project? And it's not like he didn't know the answer to that question. It's just that in his experience, that when there are multiple people in a room that are witnessing an apparition, that apparition is always facing them. So no matter what point you are in the room, where you see it, it's looking at you. And that's an amazing thing in and of itself. And there was another question I had when it came to a place memory or residual type haunting. You know, it's a memory that's been recorded into the environment. It could be that of a living person as well. It doesn't have to be someone who's passed. It could have been as a result of a very emotional event. And a lot of it, I do think, has to do with the geological makeup of the area. There's like a lot of energy there. There's a lot of certain types of minerals. Is there a geomagnetic, you know, strength there that's more than in other places? But anyhow, there's a memory there. But well, how do you get rid of that? Say you buy a house, and you know everything's good until you start seeing, you know, the stranger, you know, walking down the hallway and disappearing into the wall. But you notice it happening every day at the same time, and it's always the same. They never interact. They never nothing. It just does its thing. And it's like seeing a video on a loop. Well, how do you get rid of that? And I remember reading one of his books a long time ago. And, you know, I was asking through the moderator, you know, well, it's something with, you know, can you erase that memory, like using a demagnetizer or a degausser? You know, like we used to use in the prisons after these hearings they would have. You know, they'd keep the cassette tapes for so many years, and then you would just erase them. And you would take this thing, plug it in, and you'd put it over these tapes, and it would, you know, erase everything on the tape. Well, I read in one of his books years ago, but the point being is he didn't even get to that yet. And that was part of the course that night, this past Monday night. He hadn't even gotten to that point yet. And here I already am asking, well, can you do this? Can you do that? And blah, blah. You know, I read it in his book, you know, and sure enough, he hit on it that night. So on how, you know, you could attempt to erase that memory or even record over that memory by creating your own, which is interesting in of itself.
Well, it is, because how would you be able to trump something that would be so emotional that created that stone tape experience? Well,
if it was, it doesn't matter. You know, the emotional level really probably doesn't matter in a place memory or a recording or a haunting, or more commonly referred to as residual type haunting. You know, whether it was created out of extreme emotion or I don't know if it was one of Mr. Auerbach's books or not, but I did remember this one case. I can't remember.